are literally shaping the planet.
Purpose is the only pathway to a regenerative future.
We have a choice to stay with the status quo or to change.
What is the point of trying to be just resilient when we can actually innovate?
Today, I'm super excited to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is the future of retail is small businesses. So before we get started, I will share a little bit about me, but after I present, I would love to know a lot more about you. So I am the global retail and e-commerce consultant at the Affinity Group International, and I call myself a semi-Georgia native because I was born here in Atlanta. I left and moved to Virginia when I was 3, and I was raised there, went to school in New York, was a buyer, strategy manager, art director at some of the companies you see listed on my slide, but now I'm here back in Atlanta. So semi-Georgia native. I've been immersed in the retail industry for 14 years and counting now. And like I said, various roles from being a buyer responsible for $117 million merchandise departments all the way to $2 billion. I've been a strategy manager, art director, merchandising director. So I've seen the business from many different angles. And the time that we're in right now is very interesting, but also exciting for this industry and really getting to see it truly evolve. So with that, my motto is retail is not dead. It has evolved because it's not dead. It's evolving, as we know. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but a lot of the headlines are just talking about 2% of this industry. So I'm super excited to talk to you about the 98% of the industry, which are small businesses. I'm passionate about equipping small and medium-sized businesses with the same sales-driving strategies, techniques, processes as the powerhouse brands that I've been fortunate to work with in my past corporate career. So just passing down those same knowledges to the small businesses so that they can compete on that same level. And lastly, traveling is my number one source of inspiration. When COVID's not happening, you can find me abroad somewhere looking at how other people merchandise and how they eat, live, work, and play. And that serves as inspiration for everything that I do. If you know me, you know I always have to start off my sessions with a quote. So today, my quote is, "You can't solve a problem on the same level that it was created. You have to rise above it to the next level." And this is one of my favorite quotes because of the time that we're in right now. And it's easy to just talk about COVID and all the negative impacts that it's having on the industry. Or what we're going to do today is focus on the positive and how to move this industry forward from now on. Here are the topics we're going to cover today, which are small businesses in retail, the state of shopping centers, working with small businesses, and the new built environment. And as I present, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box, and I'll try to answer as I go. So before we talk about the future, we do still have to talk about the current state of retail, which are that we're seeing major chains going bankrupt and downsizing. Unfortunately, 25,000 shops could close permanently this year, and 50 to 60% of those stores will be mall-based. There's a rush to e-commerce. We've seen brick and mortar only stores scrambling to try to get their website presence up and to even try to compete at this point, right? We've seen major disruptions in the supply chain across all industries, across all countries across the world. And I think now companies are slowly starting to bounce back from that. But retailers have been canceling their entire spring and summer collections because of COVID. So that's definitely going to have a ripple effect going in towards the end of this year. Customers are changing their shopping behaviors and they're not as willing to come in person for obvious reasons. But if they do come in person, the new protocols for in-person shopping are in effect, such as wearing a mask and social distancing. And lastly, there's a higher focus on what I like to call conscious shopping, and that meaning shopping by values and with local retailers. And with that, I mean After the death of George Floyd, we've seen an awakening of the Black Lives Matter movement and just a calling for companies to have a true stance on diversity and inclusion and not just being lip service. And you can go on social media and easily see the companies who have either said something and it didn't resonate because it's clear in the comments. They didn't say anything at all, which is actually saying a whole heck of a lot. Or they did say something and they actually had concrete plans of how they were going to fix anything that might have been wrong and so forth. So customers now are looking at that. So before, there was supply chain transparency. That was a big conversation. So making sure that companies are paying their workers fair living wages, right? But now it's gotten even deeper. So customers want to know, what are brands about? What are your values? Are diversity and inclusion and equity for all a part of your values? Well, if so, is that reflected in your leadership at your company from the top down? So I think that's definitely going to have a big effect on the retail industry moving forward. Oh, one of my favorite things to do is to expel the myth about e-commerce. Before the pandemic, you'll hear people saying e-commerce is disrupting brick and mortar retail. It's taking over. Amazon's taking over the world. Yeah, that's not true. Yes, it's disrupting retail, but it is not taking over by any means. And this data just came out late last week from Global Data. And what they said were that online sales rose sharply during the pandemic, obviously, but the channel did not dominate. Most of the sales during the peak of lockdown were still made at the physical stores that remained open. And if you look at the chart, in December 2019, online in the US was about 17% of total retail sales penetration. Well, in April, which is the highest, it only got up to 21% of penetration. That's not that big. That's not even double. So I'm so excited about this conference and the fact that we're talking about the built environment, because it is important, it's essential, and it's not going anywhere. Small businesses are the future of retail. And I'm not just saying that, they are the present of retail and the future. According to the National Retail Federation, small businesses are 98% of all retail companies. So when you see the headlines about all these different retailers going bankrupt, it's always about the 2%, right? The big corporations is what we're talking about. And so we kind of ignore the 98%, which are small businesses. And we'll get into a little bit of why that probably happens, or why you may be hesitant to incorporate more small businesses into your properties, but there are definitely advantages. And again, the anchor store concept, right? It's kind of dying out. A lot of these anchor stores are closing, hundreds of stores are completely going bankrupt. So now what do we have to do? How do we save this industry? Small businesses is the answer to that question. So with that, let's just take a little look at the state of shopping centers. So as I mentioned, 25,000 shops could close permanently this year, which is really unfortunate. And 50 to 60% of those will be mall-based. So you can imagine that malls are not in great shape right now. And how do we turn them around, right? And again, 25% of America's malls may disappear by next year. And I've even seen research saying up to a third of the malls may disappear. But the US is also over retailed. If you look at these estimates on US retail space, it's crazy compared to other countries. It's estimated that retail space is ranging from 23.5 to 46.6 square feet per person versus 2.4 square feet per person in Germany and 1.5 square feet per person in Mexico. So before COVID, we were seeing a downsizing, or you can call it a right sizing of the retail industry. And this has just honestly accelerated what was already going to happen. And lastly, there's just a lack of differentiation. Like, when was the last time before COVID that you went to the mall? And what drove you to that mall versus a different mall that's 15 minutes away? Because most likely they have similar stores, and then there's just like a little sprinkle of everything else, right? So there's not a true level of differentiation between all of these different malls for us to have so many. I think that we should, number one, ditch the word mall. It has a negative connotation at this point, right? And I feel that these properties and other types of shopping centers, they need to become immersive shopping experiences. And by that, I mean, think of mall-wide events. Right now, malls may have fashion shows or little things, but nothing that truly is like compelling to get somebody off the couch and come in. But what if the whole entire mall rallied around a specific theme, right? So think of skincare, like do a skincare event that's like good skin is always in. Just making this up. But all the retailers in the mall who have skincare can come up with special promotions, and you can have live activations in the mall, but make it an actual thing to get people in for a specific reason, right? And my favorite way that I like to think about these futuristic immersive shopping experiences is shop, buy, and work. So I envision these experiences to be, if I'm a consumer, I can come to the mall and I see all these small businesses as well as major brands. But specifically with the small businesses, I can truly fall in love with retail and shopping and fashion again. So I can go and see the local maker actually making bags. I can see the process. I can buy the bags, right? Or if I have my own store, I can also buy at wholesale or place my wholesale orders at the mall, right? So it's an entire like 360-degree experience of our industry that would make somebody get off the couch and come in, because you get there and you're in a whole other world, right, of fashion, and you can learn. There's seminars, there's events, there's interactive things, there's workshops. You can learn how to make a small leather good, right? So that's what I see for the future of shopping. And what I found really interesting through the pandemic is how companies are rushing to save these anchor stores, AKA JCPenney, that have been failing forever, for like almost a decade. Why? Versus investing in high growth potential brands who obviously are smaller than a JCPenney, right? I don't get it. And maybe you can let me know in the comments the thought process or why you think that it makes sense. But you can save JCPenney or buy them out all you want to, but are you really, like, that's not, like, do you have some revolutionary way to save it at the end of the day? Or should you have invested your money, your time in something innovative? Perhaps a co-op store where you can have local brands come in and share, right? Pop-up markets are a huge thing, not just here in Atlanta, but all throughout the US, all throughout the world, craft fairs and markets. So what if you brought that, but at a more elevated level, to a mall or a shopping center? So people know that you're a destination for really cool, indie, innovative products that they can't find anywhere else. And that also helps to tie the mall, the shopping center, into the local community. And that's the first thing that everyone gravitated towards when COVID happened, were small businesses, local businesses, and supporting them. So the mall, the shopping center should absolutely mirror those same efforts. So with that, why are small businesses such a small percentage or penetration of your tenants? I'm always open and honest, so I get it, right? Oftentimes when you work with small businesses, there's a knowledge gap of just how the industry works, you know, what it means to lease a space, what are all the expenses that come along with that, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, How do you manage your cash flow to make sure you can pay your rent on time? And, a lot of small businesses have issues raising enough capital to be able to afford to have their own space, right? And let's be honest, they're not necessarily a turnkey tenant. Whereas you know what to expect from working with a large retailer or brand. With a small business, there's that learning curve, again, that knowledge and resource gap. So it will require a bit more hand-holding than you probably want, right? But again, look at the situation we're in right now with COVID. Landlords and tenants are having to work together in ways that they never had to before. Before it could have been a truly isolated relationship, but now tenants need your support more than ever before. And so with that, of course, if you have the chance of dealing with a multi-billion-dollar stable company versus a small business that's growing, you're probably going to opt for the stable one, right? But now they're not so stable. So with that, do you have an established onboarding program for small businesses to be a part of your property? Yes, it's going to require a little bit more time and resources, but do you? Because it will be worth it, right? Because that'll lead to your tenant having more longevity with you, possibly even moving into a bigger space and drawing traffic to your property. And so do you have a program? Do you have a way, if any of your tenants are really struggling, do you have a way or a program to kind of help jumpstart them again? Or having a consultant like me who can come in and be able to immediately hone in on what's going on with that tenant and give them a plan of action to turn their business around and become a great, substantial, long-term growing business. Do you have those things in place? Those are the kind of questions and conversations that we'll have to have now that you will start incorporating these small businesses into your space. And so the new built environment, which includes more of a view of small businesses, co-op stores, I think that's going to become a larger percentage in different properties. And with that, it's just another way to bring these outdoor markets and fairs, like I mentioned, into your space, right? And so these brands can finally have a space of their own, kind of. They'll all share in the cost of having that space. And as they grow their business, then they'll move into their own space in your property. And so that could also turn into an incubator program. So again, we know they need more retail or resources and knowledge, right? And so by doing an incubator program with them or working with us, for example, and using our revitalized retail program to create this for you, then you make sure that you have these brands who are serious, who are ready, who have having their own space as a part of their long-term goals already, so that they move into your co-op store, they have a plan, they're working towards building a stronger business that has the cash flow that's super clear, what's coming in, what's going out, so that they make sure that they are in a solid position to be a great tenant for you. So incubator programs are huge. And again, it also helps you to foster that community, right? The community knows that you're a part of it and that you welcome local brands and you're proud of the community that your property is in. And lastly, having self-hosted pop-up retail experiences. Again, it may take adding another person to your team who is specifically just about this and incorporating small businesses, or you can work with myself and my team. But think of it this way, for the holidays, right? Gifting is obviously like the number one activity that we have to think about. So what if you had a gifting pop-up in your space? Meaning you have local brands and maybe some brands who are indie from the state, not just truly like your local community, but people can come in and shop and make their own gift boxes full of local goods, right? or they could even shop them all. So that helps all of your tenants. And then they can come to this gifting space, this gifting suite, to put their items together. And then you guys could have a service that you'll ship it to the destination, like the recipient of the gift. So it's things like that. Yes, it's looking at it a different way, and it blurs the lines between a property manager and you being a tenant as well. But if we're buying out JCPenney and saving Forever 21, what's the difference? And it's another great way to be able to use vacant space in your property. Pop-up shops, hosting your own events, encouraging your retailers to also put on more events and engage with the community as well to get more people into your property. So I'd love to answer any questions that you guys may have. I know it was quick, but I hope it was inspirational and is helping you kind of think about working with small businesses in a different way. It's something that I absolutely love, and I do it every single day of my life. And I know your pains and your struggles, so let us take that on. And we can work together to truly create and foster a sense of community in your space. So any questions, I'd love to take them. And if not, these are all the ways that you can contact me and my team, and we'd be happy to discuss some things with you.